The crystal chamber of the Galactic Council shook with noise. Ambassador Zix Prime raised all four of his ceremonial hammers high above his head. His blue skin turned darker with anger as he looked at the representatives from 847 different worlds. "This cannot continue," he shouted. His voice echoed through the vast hall. "The humans ignore our laws. They take planets without asking. They refuse to follow the sacred protocols of civilized warfare. Today, we must act." The other ambassadors nodded their heads, tentacles, and various other body parts in agreement. The hegemony delegates' three eyes glowed red with fury. The crystalline beings from Zarian rang like broken bells. Even the peaceful plant people of Verdania rustled their leaves in anger. "I call for a vote," Zix Prime declared. "All in favor of declaring total war on the human species." A wave of agreement swept through the chamber. Lights flashed. Voices roared. Mechanical beings beeped their approval. In less than 10 minutes, the vote was complete. 847 species agreed. 0 opposed. The decision was final. "By the authority of the Galactic Council," Zix Prime announced, "we hereby declare total war upon the human species. Let this message reach every corner of the galaxy. The age of human expansion ends today." The chamber erupted in celebration. Finally, the upstart species would learn their place in the galaxy far away on Earth. President Maria Martinez sat in the Oval Office with her morning coffee. She liked this quiet time before the day began. Outside her window, she could see the White House gardens where the first spring flowers were starting to bloom. Her chief of staff, David Chun, knocked on the door and entered quickly. He looked worried. "Madam President," he said, "we just received a message from our deep space monitoring stations. The Galactic Council has declared war on Earth." President Martinez looked up from her coffee cup. She glanced at the clock on her desk. It read 9:17 am war? She asked. "The whole council?" "Yes, ma'am." All 847 member species voted in favor. The president took another sip of her coffee and thought for a moment. "Well, that's inconvenient. Schedule a press conference for lunchtime and see if Secretary Williams is free this afternoon. We should probably discuss our response." "Should I cancel your meeting with the Education Committee?" David asked. "No, keep it. This is important too. Kids still need better schools, even if aliens want to fight us." President Martinez picked up a folder from her desk. "What about the infrastructure bill vote on Thursday? Will this affect that?" "I don't think so, ma'am. Congress is still in session." "Good. We've been working on those roads and bridges for months. A little alien war shouldn't stop progress." David stared at his boss. "Ma'am, they declared war. Total war." "I heard you the first time, David. It's serious, yes. But we've dealt with serious things before. Remember last year's hurricane season? Or that volcano in Iceland that messed up air travel for weeks? We handled those just fine." The president stood up and walked to her window. "Have the Pentagon prepare our standard response protocols. Contact our allies. Get the UN Security Council together. You know, the usual stuff. The usual stuff?" David repeated. "David, humans have been fighting for thousands of years. We've survived ice ages, plagues, 2 world wars, and nuclear standoffs. We're still here. We're still building things. A bunch of angry aliens isn't going to change that." She turned back to her desk. "Now, about that education meeting. Did they finish the report on science funding?" Within hours, news of the war declaration spread across Earth. The reaction was not what the aliens expected. The New York Stock Exchange opened down 2.3%. But by noon it had recovered most of its losses. Traders treated it like any other Tuesday market dip. On social media, Humans did what they always did with big news. They made jokes. The most popular meme showed a picture of an enormous alien battleship with the caption, "Ma'am, this is a Wendy's." Within 6 hours, it had been shared 50 million times. News channels covered the story, but they also talked about sports scores, weather forecasts, and a celebrity wedding. The alien war was just another item on the list. In coffee shops across the globe, people discussed the news over their morning drinks. "Did you hear about the aliens?" One person would ask. "Yeah, crazy stuff." Another would reply, "Hey, did you catch the game last night?" Some people were more concerned. Military recruitment centers saw longer lines than usual. Hardware stores reported a 15% increase in sales of emergency supplies. But these were small changes in the daily routine of 8 billion humans. Children still went to school. Their teachers explained that yes, aliens had declared war, but no, it probably wouldn't affect the upcoming math test. Workers still went to their jobs. They made cars, grew food, taught classes, and delivered packages just like every other day. The Pentagon held emergency meetings, but even there, the response was calm and professional. General Roberts, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, reviewed the situation with his staff. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "we have a new threat to address. But we've been preparing for something like this since 1947. We have protocols. We have plans. We have the best military in human history. What about civilian panic?" asked Admiral Foster. "Look outside," General Roberts said, pointing to the window. "Do you see panic? People are going about their business. Americans don't panic easily. We've been through too much for that." The general was right. Outside the Pentagon, traffic moved normally. People walked their dogs. Food trucks served lunch to office workers. Life continued. By evening, President Martinez held her promised press conference. She stood at the podium looking calm and confident. "My fellow Americans," she began, "today the Galactic Council declared war on our planet. This is a serious matter that we take seriously. However, I want to assure you that we are prepared for this challenge. We have the finest military in the world. We have strong allies. We have faced difficult times before and emerged stronger. We will face this challenge with the same determination that has carried us through every crisis in our history. Tomorrow, you should go to work. Send your children to school. Live your lives. We are Americans. We don't let anyone tell us how to live, whether they're from this world or any other." The press conference lasted 20 minutes. Then the president went back to work on the infrastructure bill. As the day ended on Earth, humans settled into their evening routines. They had dinner with their families. They watched television. They read bedtime stories to their children. 8 billion people went to sleep, knowing that 847 alien species had declared war on them. Most of them slept just fine. Admiral Crethfer stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Infinite Glory. His 6 eyes studied the holographic displays showing Earth and its surrounding space. For 3 weeks, he had been waiting for the human response to their war declaration. What he saw made no sense. "Communications Officer Dizes," he called to the purple-skinned alien at the sensor station. "Show me the latest human transmissions." The displays filled with intercepted Earth communications. Admiral Crethfer read them with growing confusion. Weekend. Weather forecast. Sunny with chance of rain. The baseball season starts next. Month with new stadium regulations. Traffic on Highway 95 is backed up due to construction. Remember to pick up milk and eggs on your way home. This cannot be correct, the Admiral said. Run a full spectrum analysis. Check for coded military transmissions. Officer Dizes worked at her console for several minutes. Sir, I've analyzed all frequencies. These appear to be normal civilian communications. No hidden codes detected. Admiral Krethfer's tentacles curled with frustration. What about their military channels? Mostly routine status reports, sir. Fleet repositioning orders. Supply requests. Nothing that suggests panic or emergency mobilization. The Admiral had fought 17 different species in his long career. He knew how civilizations responded to war declarations. First came desperate diplomatic messages trying to negotiate peace. Then massive military mobilization. Then fear spreading through their populations. Humans were doing none of these things. Perhaps their leaders haven't told their people yet, suggested Commander Zilks from the navigation station. Impossible, replied Admiral Krethfer. Our intelligence confirms the announcement was broadcast globally. Every human knows about our declaration. He pulled up surveillance footage from Earth's major cities. New York looked normal. People walked the streets carrying coffee and shopping bags. London showed similar scenes of ordinary life. Tokyo, Moscow, and Sao Paulo all appeared completely calm. Maybe they're hiding their true capabilities, Commander Zilks offered. This could be a trick to make us overconfident. Admiral Krethfer had considered this possibility. But 3 weeks of observation showed no signs of hidden preparations. Earth space traffic continued at normal levels. Their industrial output remained steady. Their military movements were minimal and appeared routine. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador Zix Prime faced similar confusion from his intelligence team. "Explain this to me again," he demanded, holding up a data tablet. "The humans received our ultimatum 3 weeks ago. Where's their surrender?" Intelligence Chief Kextal, a floating jellyfish-like creature, pulsed with uncertainty. "Sir, they appear to be ignoring us." "Ignoring us? That's impossible. We represent 847 species. We have thousands of warships. The evidence is clear, sir." Human governments acknowledged our message, but then continued with their normal activities. Their president is currently focused on something called an infrastructure bill to repair their roads. Zix Prime stared at the report. "Roads. We threaten them with total destruction, and they're worried about roads?" "Yes, sir. Also, they're debating regulations for a sport called baseball." The ambassador's blue skin turned several shades darker. "Are they insane?" "Our psychological profiles suggest otherwise, sir. They appear to be functioning normally by their own standards." Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening in every major alien capital. The plant people of Verdania rustled their leaves in confusion. The crystalline beings of Zarian hummed discordant notes of uncertainty. Even the emotionless machines of the synthetic collective processed this anomaly with something resembling bewilderment. Back on Earth, President Martinez met with her security team in the Situation Room. The mood was serious, but not panicked. "What's our current assessment?" she asked Secretary of Defense Williams. "Ma'am, our deep space monitoring shows significant alien fleet movements. They're positioning forces at strategic points around our solar system. We estimate roughly 3,000 ships so far. And our response? We've quietly moved our space assets to defensive positions. The Luna base is at full readiness. Our asteroid mining operations have been converted to forward observation posts. All personnel have been briefed on emergency procedures. Casualties so far? None, ma'am. They haven't actually attacked anything yet. They seem to be waiting for something." President Martinez nodded, probably waiting for us to panic. "Any word from our allies?" The European Union, Japan, and Australia have all confirmed mutual defense agreements remain in effect. Canada is mobilizing their Space Force. The Russians are being Russian, but they seem willing to cooperate against an external threat. Good. What about the UN? Security Council meeting scheduled for tomorrow. Some debate about whether this falls under terrestrial or space law, but everyone agrees on the basic principle: Earth for humans. The president looked at the displays showing alien fleet positions. They're being very polite for an invasion force. No attacks on our satellites, no jamming of our communications, no demands for surrender. Maybe they're waiting for us to make the first move? Suggested General Roberts. Or maybe they don't actually know how to fight a war, replied President Martinez. When was the last time the Galactic Council fought anyone? General Roberts checked his briefing notes. According to our xenorchaeology teams, the last major galactic conflict was over 800 years ago. Most of these species have been at peace for centuries. Interesting, the president mused. So they're threatening us with war. But they might not remember how to actually fight one. Meanwhile, aboard the Infinite Glory, Admiral Crethfer received a priority message from Galactic Council Command. Admiral, came the voice of Supreme Commander Vextar. Report on human military response. Sir, there hasn't been one. Not in any recognizable form. Explain. They've moved some assets around, but nothing that suggests panic or desperation. Their communications remain calm. Their populations continue normal activities. It's as if they're treating our war declaration as a minor inconvenience. A long pause. Perhaps they don't understand the severity of their situation. Sir, we've broadcast our message in every human language. Mathematical proofs, pictographs, even simple audio. They definitely received and understood our declaration. Then why aren't they responding appropriately? Admiral Crethfer looked out at the blue-green planet below. I don't know, sir. Nothing in our tactical databases covers this scenario. On Earth, people continued their daily lives with remarkable consistency. Coffee shops remained busy. Schools held classes. Factories produced goods. The stock market had stabilized. Even news coverage of the alien situation had decreased as other stories competed for attention. A late-night talk show host joked, so aliens declared war on us 3 weeks ago. I guess they're about as efficient as the DMV. The audience laughed. A survey conducted by a major polling company found that 67% of Americans believed the government would handle the alien situation appropriately. 31% were undecided. Only 2% expressed serious concern about human survival. In small towns across the country, people discussed the aliens over dinner, but the conversations quickly moved to local concerns. School board elections, high school football scores, whether the Johnson family's new fence was too tall according to city regulations. As the third week ended, Admiral Crethfer filed his most honest report yet. Human behavior remains incomprehensible. They acknowledge our presence but show no fear. They continue building, learning, and arguing about mundane matters. Either they possess defensive capabilities beyond our understanding, or they are collectively insane. Or, he added privately to his personal log, they've dealt with threats like us before and simply aren't impressed. That thought worried him more than any weapon humans might possess. Captain Rosa Delgado was having a normal Tuesday morning aboard the cargo ship, Milwaukee's Best. She sipped her coffee while reviewing the manifest for their delivery to Asteroid Station Alpha 7. 300 tons of recycled electronics, some replacement parts for mining equipment, and a special shipment of Earth coffee for the homesick miners. Captain, called out Navigation Officer Kim Park from her station. I'm picking up an unknown contact on sensors. It's big. Rosa walked over to the sensor display. A massive shape appeared on the screen, clearly artificial and definitely not human-made. Wow, that's new, she said calmly. Distance and heading? 200 kilometers and closing fast. It's huge, Captain. At least 10 times our size. Hail them on standard frequencies. Maybe they're lost. Kim worked her console. No response to standard shipping channels. Trying emergency frequencies now. Before Kim could finish, the unknown ship fired a bright beam that struck the Milwaukee's best. The cargo ship shook, and several warning lights flashed on the control panels. Damage report, Rosa ordered. Minor hull breach in Cargo Bay 3. Emergency seals holding. They hit us with some kind of energy weapon, but it seems designed to disable rather than destroy. Rosa considered their options. The unknown ship was much larger and better armed. Running seemed like the smart choice, but the nearest help was hours away. Unless... Kim, what's our position relative to the Ceres asteroid field? About 40 minutes at full burn. Perfect. Send a distress signal to Luna Base, and then plot a course for the asteroid field. Emergency acceleration. Captain, that's going to be rough on the cargo. Better some broken electronics than a broken ship. Execute. The Milwaukee's best surged forward as its engines fired at maximum power. Rosa grabbed the communications microphone. Attention, unknown vessel, she broadcast. You have committed an act of piracy against a civilian cargo ship. This incident has been logged and transmitted to authorities. Suggest you withdraw immediately. She wasn't sure if they would understand English, but it seemed worth trying. Meanwhile, aboard the hegemony cruiser Relentless Fury, Commander Zethkar stared at his tactical display in confusion. The human vessel is accelerating toward that asteroid field, reported his weapons officer. Obviously trying to escape. Zethkar replied, Pursue and disable them completely. We need prisoners for interrogation. Sir, they sent us a message. What did it say? Something about piracy and authorities. They seemed to think we were criminals rather than a military force. Commander Zethkar's scales rippled with irritation. They don't understand the situation. Maintain pursuit. The chase continued for 30 minutes. The human cargo ship proved surprisingly maneuverable for its size, weaving between asteroids with skill that impressed even the alien crew. But the Relentless Fury was faster and more powerful. Then everything changed. Commander, called the sensor operator, his voice tense. Multiple contacts emerging from the asteroid field. They're human military vessels. 5 sleek warships appeared on the tactical display, moving to intercept the hegemony cruiser. They had been hiding in the asteroid field, waiting. Commander Zethkar watched the approaching ships with growing unease. These weren't the desperate, panicked defenders he had expected. They moved with precise formation and obvious tactical skill. The lead human ship opened communications. Hegemony vessel Relentless Fury, came a calm female voice. This is Commander Sarah Chun of the United Nations ship Perseverance. You are in violation of established shipping lanes and have committed an act of piracy against a civilian vessel. Commander Zethkar activated his own communications system. Human vessel. We are a military force operating under a declaration of war by the Galactic Council. Surrender immediately or face destruction. There was a brief pause. Then Commander Chun responded. Relentless Fury. Be advised that no formal declaration of war has been recognized by Earth authorities. You are currently classified as pirates engaging in illegal activity. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded, or we will be forced to detain your vessel through other means. Detain us? Commander Zethkar couldn't believe what he was hearing. We have superior firepower and numbers. Sir, his tactical officer interrupted. That's not actually correct. What do you mean? The human ships. They're armed with weapons I don't recognize. And there are more contacts emerging from the asteroid field. Many more. The tactical display filled with new contacts. Dozens of human ships, ranging from small fighters to massive battleships. They had been waiting, perfectly positioned and completely hidden until now. How many? Zethkar asked. At least 50 ships, sir? Possibly more launching from hidden bases. Commander Chun's voice came over the communications again. Relentless fury. Your 30 seconds are up. Final warning. Power down your weapons or we will disable them for you. Commander Zethkar faced a decision. His ship was outnumbered 15-1 by vessels whose capabilities he didn't understand. The humans weren't acting like desperate defenders or shocked primitives. They were acting like professionals dealing with a routine problem. How long have they been waiting here? He asked his sensor officer. Unknown, sir. They were completely hidden until they chose to reveal themselves. It's like they knew we would come this way. The truth was worse than Commander Zethkar suspected. The humans had indeed known. Earth's deep space monitoring had tracked every alien ship movement for weeks. Human military planners had identified likely approach routes and positioned response forces accordingly. They had been ready. Sir, his communications officer reported. I'm receiving messages from the human fleet. They're offering to provide medical assistance if we have injured crew. They're also asking if we need directions to the nearest neutral port. Medical assistance? Commander Zethkar repeated. We attacked them. Yes, sir. They seem to consider that a minor incident. They keep referring to it as a maritime law violation and asking about our insurance information. From his position on the cargo ship Milwaukee's Best, Captain Delgado watched the standoff with professional interest. Her ship had suffered minor damage, but nothing that couldn't be repaired at the next station. Kim, she said to her navigation officer, file an incident report with the Maritime Authority. Category: attempted piracy, foreign vessel, no casualties. Should I mention they were aliens? Put it in the special circumstances section. The insurance company is going to love this paperwork. Captain Delgado returned to her coffee and resumed reviewing the delivery manifest. She had a schedule to keep. Aboard the Perseverance, Commander Chun waited for the alien response. This was her first contact with a hostile extraterrestrial force, but her training had prepared her for various scenarios. The alien seemed confused by standard maritime law enforcement procedures. Ma'am, reported her tactical officer. The alien ship is powering down weapons. Good. Signal the boarding party to prepare for inspection. And contact the diplomatic corps. They'll want to handle first contact protocols. What about the alien ship's crew? Standard procedure. Document the incident, assess their capabilities, and see if they're willing to discuss proper shipping lane protocols. Maybe they just don't know the rules. Commander Chun looked at her tactical display. 50 human ships surrounded one confused alien cruiser. The aliens had expected to find frightened primitives. Instead, they had found a coordinated military force that treated their surprise attack like a traffic violation. Commander, her communications officer called. The alien captain is requesting permission to withdraw. Tell him he's free to go once we complete our inspection, and he acknowledges the shipping lane regulations. Oh, and give him a copy of the Spacefarer's Guide to Solar System Navigation. It's available in 12 languages now. Should we mention the war declaration? Commander Chun considered this. No, let the diplomats handle politics. Our job is maritime law enforcement. As the human boarding party prepared to inspect the alien cruiser, Commander Zethkar realized something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The humans weren't just unafraid of the Galactic Council's war declaration. They were treating it like paperwork. Intelligence analyst Clack sat alone in his office aboard the hegemony research vessel Seeking Truth. For days, he had been studying intercepted human data, trying to understand why the species showed no fear of the Galactic Council's war declaration. What he discovered made his three hearts beat faster with each new revelation. He started with recent human history, thinking their strange behavior might be a recent development. Instead, he found something that chilled him to his core. The humans have been preparing for this exact scenario for over 70 years. Clax opened a file labeled Popular Human Entertainment 1950 to 2025 and began reading. The titles alone were disturbing. War of the Worlds, Independence Day, District 9, Arrival, The Thing. Hundreds of stories about alien invasion. Thousands of scenarios describing how humanity might defend itself against hostile extraterrestrial forces. He watched one of their films called Independence Day. The humans in the story faced overwhelming alien technology, suffered massive casualties, and still found a way to win. At the end, they celebrated by setting off colorful explosions in their sky. This is fiction, he told himself. Entertainment, not real planning. But then he found the government documents. The United States had something called Complan 888811, a real military document that detailed responses to various unusual threats. It included sections on alien invasion, zombie apocalypse, and other scenarios that seemed impossible. But the plans were detailed and serious. Other countries had similar documents. Russia's emergency protocols included external non-terrestrial threats. China had detailed studies on defending against advanced non-human technologies. Even small countries like Switzerland had contingency plans for extraterrestrial contact. Scenarios. Clax realized with growing horror that humans had been planning for Galactic War since before they left their home planet. He dug deeper into their history and found something worse. The humans had survived extinction multiple times. 70-4,000 years ago, a supervolcano nearly wiped them out. The human population dropped to fewer than 10,000 individuals. They should have died. Instead, they adapted and spread across their planet. During their ice ages, massive glaciers covered much of their world. Food became scarce. Temperatures dropped to levels that killed most other species. Humans made clothing from animal skins, built shelters from ice and stone, and learned to hunt the largest predators on their planet. 14,000 years ago, a comet impact caused global climate change. Humans responded by inventing agriculture. Throughout their recorded history, plagues had swept across their planet. The Black Death killed 1/3 of their population in some areas. They kept building cities. Smallpox devastated entire continents. They developed medicine. More recently, a global pandemic locked down their entire civilization for years. They invented new vaccines in months and resumed normal life. But the most disturbing discovery was their wars. Humans had been fighting organized conflicts for their entire recorded history. Not small skirmishes between neighboring tribes, but massive wars involving millions of soldiers and weapons that could destroy entire cities. Clax studied what they called World War II. Over 50 million humans died. Entire nations were devastated. Cities were reduced to rubble. When it ended, the humans immediately began preparing for the next war. They built weapons that could destroy their entire planet. Not just cities or countries, the entire world. They pointed these weapons at each other for decades, knowing that using them meant the end of everything they had built. And they kept going to work every day. Children attended school while sitting under nuclear warheads. Families had picnics in parks while missiles stood ready in underground silos. Scientists made discoveries while political leaders argued about whether to end civilization. Clax found civil defense films from this period. Cheerful human voices explained how to survive nuclear war. Children practiced hiding under desks. Families built underground shelters and stocked them with food and water. The humans had normalized the possibility of total destruction. He opened another file and discovered something called FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. This was a civilian government department whose entire purpose was helping their species survive and recover from catastrophic events. They had detailed plans for every type of disaster: hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, volcanic eruptions, terrorist attacks, pandemic diseases, and yes, alien invasion. Other countries had similar organizations. The humans had bureaucratized survival. Clacks found training manuals, supply lists, and communication protocols. The humans had thought of everything. They knew how to maintain food production during global catastrophe. They could keep their power systems running after electromagnetic pulses. They had backup plans for their backup plans. Most terrifying of all, they seemed to enjoy the challenge. Their entertainment was full of stories about surviving impossible odds. Their sports involved controlled violence and competition under pressure. Their explorers actively sought out dangerous, unknown places. Their scientists studied things that could kill them. They called it extreme sports. When their people jumped off mountains wearing fabric wings, or dove into freezing water surrounded by dangerous predators, or climbed vertical ice walls in Arctic conditions. For fun, Clacks opened a file about something called NASA. The humans had built machines to explore space, knowing that any failure meant certain death for their astronauts. When their rockets exploded, killing the crews, they investigated what went wrong and built better rockets. When 3 humans died in a fire during training, they redesigned their spacecraft and continued the program. When a space shuttle exploded during launch, they grounded their fleet for 2 years, fixed the problems, and resumed flights. When another shuttle broke apart during re-entry, they did the same thing again. They treated deadly failure as a learning experience. Clacks found records of human children as young as 6 years old learning about nuclear war, global warming, asteroid impacts, and species extinction in their schools. Not as remote possibilities, but as problems their generation would need to solve. The humans were raising their offspring to expect catastrophe and plan for survival. He discovered that human universities offered degrees in emergency management and disaster preparedness. Their military academies taught courses on asymmetric warfare and unconventional threats. Their medical schools trained doctors to treat injuries from weapons that didn't exist yet. The most disturbing document Clacks found was titled Global Catastrophic Risk Assessment. 2025. Human scientists had calculated the probability of various events that could end their civilization: supervolcanic eruption, asteroid impact, nuclear war, pandemic disease, climate change, artificial intelligence uprising, and extraterrestrial invasion. They had assigned mathematical probabilities to each scenario. They were betting on their own extinction and planning accordingly. Clacks leaned back in his chair and tried to process what he had learned. The Galactic Council had declared war on a species that had been preparing for exactly this situation for longer than most council civilizations had existed. Humans didn't fear extinction because they had survived it repeatedly. They didn't panic in crisis because crisis was their normal state. They didn't surrender to superior force because their entire history was built on overcoming impossible odds. The council had expected to fight frightened primitives. Instead, they had challenged a species to consider global annihilation, a planning exercise. Clacks began typing his report with trembling appendages. Intelligence assessment. Human response to war declaration. Recommendation. Immediate cessation of hostile activities. Analysis. The human species has developed psychological and cultural adaptations that make them uniquely suited to survive. and thrive under existential threat. Their entire civilization is built around the assumption that catastrophic events will occur regularly and must be planned for. Warning: this species does not respond to threats with fear or submission. They respond with increased preparation and tactical innovation. The war declaration has likely triggered every survival protocol they have developed over millennia of fighting for existence. Personal note: we are not fighting an army. We are fighting a force of nature that has been shaped by every disaster their planet could produce. They call it being human. Clack sent his report to Fleet Command and waited for their response. He suspected it would not be well received. Ambassador Zix Prime stared at the intelligence report on his desk. He had read it 3 times, and each reading made his situation more clear. The Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake. 12 months of war had not gone according to plan. The humans had not surrendered. They had not panicked. Instead, they had done something unprecedented in galactic history. They had treated the war like a job. Every hegemony fleet sent to human space encountered the same response. Professional military units that fought with calm efficiency. Supply lines that adapted faster than they could be disrupted. Civilian populations that continued their daily lives while supporting the war effort. 3 separate invasion fleets had been disabled by human forces. Not destroyed, the humans seemed oddly reluctant to cause unnecessary casualties. Instead, alien crews found their ships surrounded, their weapons neutralized, and their personnel invited to discuss the situation over coffee. The humans offered medical care to wounded alien soldiers. They provided food to captured crews. They even gave them legal representation during questioning. It was the most polite war in galactic history, and they were winning. The final straw had come the previous week. A human diplomatic ship had arrived at the Galactic Council station carrying a message. Not a plea for mercy or an offer of surrender. Something much worse: a business proposal. Zix Prime activated the holographic display and watched the message again. "Greetings to the Galactic Council," said President Martinez, looking relaxed and confident. "We appreciate you finally making first contact with our species. While we regret the circumstances that brought us together, we see this as an opportunity for positive relations. We would like to discuss trade agreements and cultural exchange programs. We're also interested in joining your galactic community. Assuming you can update your legal frameworks to accommodate our territorial requirements and governance systems, please contact our State Department to schedule negotiations. We look forward to working with you." The message ended with contact information for the Human State Department and an attached document titled Preliminary Framework for Human Integration into Galactic Civilization. Zix Prime had read the framework. It was terrifying. The humans wanted to establish trade routes throughout Council space. They offered technological exchange programs. They proposed joint defense initiatives against external threats. They even suggested cultural student exchange programs between Earth and other worlds. They were acting like they had won the war and were now offering to let the Council join their civilization. The worst part was that Council analysts agreed the proposals were reasonable and beneficial. 3 days later, Zix Prime found himself sitting across from President Martinez and Secretary of State Kim in a conference room aboard the human diplomatic ship New Horizons. The humans had provided coffee and pastries for the meeting. "Thank you for agreeing to these negotiations," President Martinez said with a warm smile. "We're excited about the possibilities for cooperation between our peoples." Zix Prime tried to maintain his dignity. "Madam President, you seem to misunderstand the situation. The Galactic Council declared war on your species. You have not won, haven't we?" Secretary Kim asked politely. "Our fleets control most of the strategic positions in this sector. Your invasion forces have been neutralized. Your supply lines are disrupted. By any military definition, we've achieved victory. But Zix Prime began. However, President Martinez continued, we don't see this as a victory over the Council. We see it as a successful first contact with a galactic civilization. Yes, there were some misunderstandings initially, but that's normal for any new relationship. Misunderstandings? Zix Prime's voice rose an octave. You declared war, Secretary Kim explained, because you thought we were a threat to galactic peace. We responded by demonstrating our defensive capabilities. Now we can move forward as equals, with mutual respect for each other's sovereignty. Zix Prime looked at the documents spread across the table. Trade agreements, defense pacts, technology sharing programs, cultural exchange initiatives. Everything was written in precise legal language that somehow made humanity's integration into the Council seem inevitable and beneficial. Your people, he said slowly, have defeated 3 invasion fleets. You could demand tribute, territory, even total surrender. Instead, you want to join the Council? Of course, replied President Martinez. Why would we want to fight you when we could work together? The galaxy is a big place. There's room for everyone. But you must understand, Zix Prime insisted. The Council voted unanimously to destroy your species. And we voted to offer you full diplomatic relations, Secretary Kim replied cheerfully. Democracy in action. Over the following weeks, the negotiations continued. Human representatives met with delegates from each Council species. They were polite, professional, and impossibly prepared. They had studied every Council civilization. They knew their languages, cultures, and political systems. They came with detailed proposals for mutually beneficial relationships with each species. The plant people of Verdania found themselves discussing agricultural techniques with human botanists. The crystalline beings of Zarian shared harmonic mathematics with human musicians and scientists. Even the synthetic intelligences discovered common interests. With human computer specialists. It was not the conquest the Council had expected to face. The final Council session was unlike any in galactic history. Instead of discussing war strategy, the delegates debated trade regulations and diplomatic protocols. Order! Order! Zix Prime called as the chamber filled with excited voices. We are here to vote on a human application for Council membership. Supreme Commander Vextar of the Hegemony stood to speak. Honored delegates, 12 months ago, we declared war on the humans because we saw them as a threat. Today, I must report that this threat was misunderstood. Murmurs filled the chamber. The humans have demonstrated advanced military capabilities, yes, but they have used these capabilities defensively. They have taken no territory by conquest. They have made no demands for tribute or submission. Instead, they offer partnership. Council Scientist Thing of the Academic Collective activated her display. Human technological proposals show potential for advancing Council civilization by centuries. Their medical knowledge alone could benefit every species represented here. Furthermore, added diplomatic speaker Korth of the Neutral Alliance. Human cultural exports are already popular throughout Council space. Something called coffee has become the preferred beverage in over 200 systems. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates worried about human unpredictability. Others praised their problem-solving abilities. A few suggested that any species capable of treating galactic war as a minor bureaucratic issue might be exactly what the Council needed. The vote was closer than the war declaration had been, 4-3. In favor, 398 opposed, 26 abstaining. Humanity was officially invited to join the Galactic Council. President Martinez received the news during her morning coffee. She smiled and told her aide to schedule a celebration dinner at the White House. Then she returned to reading briefing papers about infrastructure funding. The war that was supposed to end human expansion instead marked the beginning of humanity's integration into galactic civilization. Within a year, human merchants were establishing trade routes throughout council space. Human scientists were collaborating with alien researchers. Human artists were creating works that combined Earth and alien cultural elements. Most importantly, humans began sharing their greatest skill with the rest of the galaxy: the ability to survive and thrive in the face of existential threats. When the Council detected signals from hostile civilizations beyond the galactic rim, they knew who to call. When ancient automated weapon systems activated in dead systems, threatening all life in the sector, human engineers found solutions. When cosmic phenomena threatened entire star systems, human disaster management specialists coordinated evacuation efforts. The species that had once declared war on humanity now looked to them for protection against the universe's many dangers. Ambassador Zix Prime, now serving as the Council's liaison to Earth, often reflected on how completely the situation had reversed itself. The Council had tried to conquer humanity and instead found themselves conquered, not by force, but by competence. At his final report to the Council, he summarized the situation in terms that every delegate could understand. We declared war on a species that had been preparing for threats like us since before we achieved spaceflight. We expected them to surrender. Instead, they offered us jobs. We are no longer the Galactic Council that declared war on humanity. We are the Galactic Council that humanity chose to join. And we are better for it. The chamber erupted in agreement. A sound that resembled applause across 847 different species. In the end, the war that was meant to destroy humanity instead gave birth to the strongest galactic alliance in recorded history. The humans called it Tuesday.